Sigashego Sembatia to bring you this afternoon's news in brief, together with Livingstone Kawesi for sign language interpretation and translation. United States President Joe Biden and Dutch Prime Minister Rutte have I beg your pardon. Kenya's President William Ruto has made sensational accusations of a plot to abduct and kill the head of the Electoral Commission in the run-up to the announcement of the presidential results last year. Mr. Ruto was declared winner of the presidential election held in August 2022, taking 50.5% of the vote amid dramatic scenes at the vote tallying center. At the time, Electoral Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati said he had done his duty despite receiving threats. On Tuesday, the president claimed the plot to abduct Mr. Chebukati was sanctioned by the highest office, according to local media reports. He made the remarks during a meeting with the commissions and independent officers at State House in Nairobi. The president's rival at the elections, Raila Odinga's party ODM, has scoffed at the remarks, calling it a well-choreographed chorus. An alleged leader of a criminal network involved in an EU corruption scandal has agreed to reveal which countries were involved and how it operated. A lawyer of Pier Antonio Panzeri said his client had agreed to tell all after receiving a deal with the prosecutors. The former member of the European Parliament is one of the 4 suspects being held in Belgium. They are suspected of accepting bribes from Qatar and Morocco in return for influencing the parliament in Brussels. Qatar has strenuously denied that it tried to gain influence through gifts and money, while Morocco has also strongly rejected allegations that it sought influence on issues such as fishing rights and the disputed status of Western Sahara. United States President Joe Biden and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte have concluded a meeting at the White House with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, protections of supply chains, and an upcoming summit for democracy hosted by the 2 countries, along with Costa Rica, South Korea, and Zambia, topping the agenda. The wide-ranging meeting on yesterday was also planned as the U.S. had sought to shore up allies and their support for restrictions that aim to limit China's ability to access advanced computer chips, develop and maintain supercomputers, and make advanced semiconductors. The Netherlands' largest company is SCML Holding, a key supplier to semiconductor equipment makers. China has been a major client of the company. The top United States military officer traveled to Poland and talked with his Ukraine counterpart face-to-face for the first time as Russia's war on Ukraine nears the 1-year mark. U.S. Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, met for a couple of hours with Ukraine's Chief of Military, General Valery Zaluzhnyi, at an undisclosed location in southeastern Poland near the border with Ukraine. Zaluzhnyi said he outlined his forces and said urgent needs were needed on Tuesday, together with Milley. The 2 leaders have talked frequently about Ukraine's military requirements and the state of the war over the past year, but had never met. Tokyo's High Court has upheld a not guilty verdict for 3 former executives from the operator of the Fukushima nuclear power plant, again clearing them of professional negligence over the 2011 nuclear disaster. The decision was announced this morning by activists supporting the prosecution of the 3 former Tokyo Electric Power Plant Company executives after the appeal hearing at the Tokyo High Court, which ruled to uphold a not guilty verdict by a lower court. In the only criminal proceedings to arise out of the world's worst nuclear crisis since Chernobyl in 1986, former TEPCO chairman Tsunehisa Katsumata, who is aged 82, and one-time executive Sakaimoto, 72 years old, and Ichiro Takekuro, who is aged 76, were all found not guilty of negligence by the Tokyo District Court in 2019. Pacific Island nations have urged Japan to delay the release of wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant over fears it could contaminate fishing grounds. The appeal this morning came days after Japan announced that treated water waste from the Fukushima plant, which was destroyed in an earthquake and a tsunami in 2011, could be released into sea around this spring or summer. More than 1 million tons of water are being stored in about 1,000 tanks at the destroyed plant, hampering its decommissioning and in danger of leaking in even the event of a major earthquake or tsunami. The Pacific Island Forum, a regional bloc of 17 islands, has declared this. And Brazil's Prosecutor General has presented its first charges against some of the thousands of people accused of storming government buildings in an effort to overturn the results of the October election, which former President Jair Bolsonaro lost. The prosecutors in the recently formed group to combat anti-democratic acts also requested that 39 defendants accused of ransacking Congress be imprisoned as a preventive measure, and that 40 million reais, which totals to $7.7 million, of their assets be frozen to help cover damages. The defendants have been charged with armed criminal association, violent attempt to subvert the democratic state of law, staging a coup and damage to public property, according to the Prosecutor General's office in a written statement. Their identities have not yet been released. Human rights groups have urged Sri Lanka to release a prominent student activist who was arrested 5 months ago during anti-government protests triggered by the country's worst economic crisis. Wasatha Mudalige, who is being held without charges under a harsh anti-terrorism law, was brought before a magistrate in Colombia yesterday, who ordered him to be remanded until the 31st of January. 7 human rights groups, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, said under the Powerful Prevention of Terrorism Act, which has been used since 1979, that courts routinely deny bail if it is opposed by the Attorney General. And in the world of business, a collapsed cryptocurrency exchange FTX says around $415 million of crypto had been stolen by hackers. About $323 million was hacked from its international exchange and $90 million from its U.S. platform since the firm filed for bankruptcy. FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried had been accused of stealing billions of dollars from FTX users to pay debts at his other firm, according to Alameda Research. Mr. Bankman-Fried has pleaded not guilty to fraud charges. Last week, the company told a bankruptcy judge in Delaware that it had recovered more than $5 billion in assets. Well, that brings us to the end of this afternoon's News in Brief. Thank you for watching Channel 44. I remind you that we are still helping the people of Karamoja. Your seed or contribution is welcome as we put a smile on the people of Karamoja. Pastor Jessica Kayanja is up next with the Marriage Now program. Stay tuned to Channel 44. You'll be tremendously blessed. God bless you and enjoy your afternoon.